We've had the new glass washers for 5 or 6 weeks now. The results are absolutely fantastic and they're so easy to use, as you'll see in the video.
Welcome to the introductory video for JD Wetherspoon's new concept of glass washing. It's the mkII 40.2 Geo, which uses new technology of reverse osmosis. The process of the machine is that we're removing all softening. There's no softening that needs to take place with this machine. The reverse osmosis unit provides pure water, it's demineralized water, so it's providing a pure quality water that will give you perfect glass washing results. Part of the process of the change, which is around £5 million worth of investment, is that the process for running the machine will be simplified. This machine differs from the existing machines within the JDW estate in that the RO water that is produced is pure. The idea is that all machines with internal softeners, all machines that have had scale-related damage or scale-related issues are removed from the estate completely at a cost of £5 million, which is a considerable investment. The process will be simplified within the SOP, and we will talk you through the SOP process as part of this training video. One of the biggest factors of the changeover from the old machine to this type of new technology is the saving in cost. Renovation will be removed from the process. You will see within the SOPs process that initially renovation needs to take place when this machine is brought into the pub. All of the glassware needs to be renovated, and we'll show you how to do that later on in the video. Once that process has taken place, there's no further renovation needed other than when new glassware is introduced into the pub, so an initial renovation needs to then take place. The additional savings that JD Wetherspoon will benefit from are as follows. Chemical consumption is reduced by around 1/3 with this machine compared to the old glass washers. There's also a massive reduction in water consumption. Across the estate, once all these machines are in place, you're going to see around 1 million litres of water saving per year, which obviously is a big on-cost to the estate. Simplifying the process through the SOPs is also a big saving in labour, and obviously staff can be sure that they're using the machine in the correct way. Once a visual inspection has taken place, the machine is safe to turn on. To operate the machine, we have 3 buttons along the front here. They are all identical in the usage, so any button will be fine to turn the machine on. At that point, the machine will fill and it will heat. The light will flash to tell you it's in a filling and heating operation. Walk away and leave the machine to do its own thing. You physically can't wash with this machine until this yellow light that flashes becomes a solid yellow light to tell you it's ready to operate. As you come in the morning, the first thing obviously to do is turn the machine on. Before we turn the machine on, a visual inspection needs to take place to make sure all the sections of the machine are in from the night before. So the machine will be clean, you'll come in, it's a visual inspection, we're making sure that we have a wash arm and rinse arm on the bottom, then we also have a wash arm and rinse arm at the top of the machine, and most importantly that the filter is in place. You'll notice with this machine, once it is switched on and it fills and heats, it does give you a temperature indication for wash tank and rinse boiler. Now obviously these are set to parameters that suit the machine, so you will see a slight fluctuation between machines during a filling and heating process, but once the machine is put into a cycle, it will not actively rinse until it is up to the correct temperature, so it guarantees a good result. Once the machine is up to temperature and it's ready for operation, it's a simple case of opening the front door, introducing your glasses in the correct rack. As part of the process, the quash kits are supplied with the machine, so it's obviously good practice as part of the SOPs to make sure that lipstick, grease, anything that's on the glass is removed before we put it into the machine. To introduce the rack in, it's a case of placing it in the door, pushing it along the runners, we close the door behind, and to start the wash process, it's a simple button with a wash symbol on there. Press the button, walk away and leave the machine. It will go into a wash and rinse cycle. once the machine has completed its wash and rinse process, you'll notice that the yellow line that came on at the start of the wash process has now gone out. That tells you it's the end of the cycle. You also get an audible bleep. There's 3 bleeps that sound at the end of the cycle to tell you the machine is finished. At that point, we can remove the rack from the machine. It's good practice as part of the SOPs to ensure that once the rack comes out, the glassware stays within the rack and the rack is stacked within the dollies provided. The less these glasses are handled, the better, because obviously we don't want to introduce grease marks and fingerprints back on the glassware. But you'll see as the glasses come out, they will be ever so slightly wetter than the standard machine. That's because we're using far less rinse aid, which is obviously part of the saving. But you will see that the glassware is of very good quality. At this point the machine is drained down, we know that it's finished the process, the light has gone out, the panel is now clear, so we know the machine has switched itself off. What we can now do is empty the machine with regard to filters, wash arms. These are the parts that will come out on a daily basis for cleaning. We drop the door down. This machine differs compared to the old machines, and it has a one-piece wash arm and a one-piece rinse arm. There are no fiddly bits and pieces, it's literally a central retaining screw that we loosen off . We can remove the rinse arm. The wash arm is located underneath and that literally just lifts off. We can remove that as well. The process needs to take place for the bottom arm and also the arm at the top. This is most important that you don't forget the top arm. And again, it is literally a retaining screw, the centre of the arm assembly, that we just unscrew, and you'll find that the whole arm assembly just drop into your hand to allow you to remove additional wash arm and additional rinse arm. It's important to check these arms visually. There shouldn't be any build-up of food debris in here at all. After all, it is a glass washer. To visually check, we need to make sure we're looking to make sure the jets are clear. We also need to look at the underside, which is important because this is where bacteria will build up if it's left. To clean these arms down, it's literally a case of just taking them over to the sink, giving them a good flush down in the sink, and then bringing them back to the machine. So these are the wash and rinse arms. The only other 2 components that need to come out of the machine now are the filter. It's important when this filter is lifted out, because it forms part of the wash tank, it's kept flat. This is where you will get a build-up of lemon pips, cocktail sticks, that sort of thing, and it's important that that doesn't find its way into the wash tank. So that's removed as such, over to the sink, and it's washed out as well. The last section to come out of the machine will be the filter. Now that's important, and it's visually checked to make sure it isn't damaged, that it's cleaned, and again rinsed under the sink to make sure it's nice and clear within the filter section here. And it's important that whoever's cleaned it puts it straight back inside the machine. It's not left to be thrown in the bin or disappear somewhere, because without this the machine will have problems. To put it back in, it just locates within the section of the wash tank. At the end of the session, the machine needs to be drained down and it needs to be cleaned. The process is very straightforward. As long as you follow the SOPs, you'll see that it's quite simplified compared to the old machines that you would have been used to using. To drain the machine down, you literally turn the machine off at the on-off button here. The panel will then go out, as you see. At that point, we press the start button and the machine will go through a drain down process. Now it will drain the water from the wash tank, it will then do a fresh water rinse, and it will then drain that rinse water down as well. So you'll find at the end of the cycle, when this light goes out, the machine will switch itself off and it will be completely empty. At this stage, we leave all the filters in place. There's absolutely nothing that's come out of the machine at all. That's important, that we're protecting the wash tank, we're protecting the pump, we're protecting the drain pump as well. So once the machine is absolutely empty and it's switched itself off, we then know that we can take the filters out. To put the machine back into an operational standard, Once we've cleaned the arms and the filters, it's important that we put it back in the right way, and it's important that's done at the time of cleaning, so the next person that comes to the machine is ready to go, or for the next session of service it's ready to go without needing to refit components into the machine. To refit the components, the filter will have been visually inspected, it would have been cleaned in the sink, that drops back into the wash tank, and you'll see there's a locating section there for it. At that point we replace the strainer. That drops straight onto the top of the wash tank. And at that point we can take one of our wash arms and one of our rinse arms. The easiest way to put them back in is to drop one on top of the other, locate it on the section there, and just tighten it up. There should be no tools being used for this machine at all. It is literally just a finger tight operation. Nip it up with your finger, make sure we get good rotation on the rinse, we also get good rotation on the wash, and that wash and rinse arm is now located and good to go. Same process takes place for the top sections. Again, a wash arm and a rinse arm. We invert it and offer it up to the section there, ready to tighten up again. As part of this introductory section, we'll explain what happens when the machines are brought into each pub. Around a week before the machine is due for installation, you will get a phone call from mkII UK. They will come in and do a site survey, ascertain what's required to install the machines to a correct standard. That will take place, and you will also get a starter kit, as you can see here, that is delivered with the machine. So part of that starter kit, you get your quash lipstick remover, you get a concentrate for that as well, and you also get the Renovive. Powder. As part of the package that's delivered with the machine, you'll see there is a Renovive powder. It's important to know the changes that this powder is going to take with regard to the chemical that's currently used, which is a liquid product. The machine won't need to use Renovate once the glassware has been renovated as soon as the machine comes into operation. It's not a process that will take place frequently, it's a one-off operation unless new glassware is brought into the pub. To renovate, you will obviously need to take precautions with regard to the cost regulations, which will form part of the SOPs, so you can see what you need. But as you can see here, gloves need to be worn, and also eye protection needs to be worn because it is a caustic powder. The process for loading the Renovive sanitizer into the machine will be literally drop the machine door down, 2 scoops of the powder into the filter section of the machine. So you can see we're actually putting it within the filter rather than just throwing it into the corner of the machine. And that will then dilute, and obviously you can go through the process of introducing your pre-renovated rack. 2 scoops of that need to go in first thing in the morning. Once those 2 scoops have gone in, every rack you put in after that you need to renovate is 1 additional scoop. So 2 scoops to start with, that will start the process off first thing in the morning. Every rack after that, it's 1 scoop. Once the renovation process has taken place, you will no longer need to renovate glassware regularly. As long as you're using the same glassware, the machine will take care of that for you. So again, it's removing a lot of the cost associated with the older machines that were in use. It's important to understand that this Renovate chemical is only used when the machine first finds its way into the pubs. It's a one-off process, it's not something that needs to be taking place on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. It's good practice to understand that when the machine is installed and commissioned ready to go, every single rack of glassware needs to go through this machine and needs to be renovated. To start the renovate process off, we take the scoop. Cost regulations, obviously, as part of the SOPs, will show you to use your gloves and your goggles because it's a caustic chemical. 2 scoops of the Renovate powder are introduced into the wash tank area of the machine. You'll see the section here that we need to drop the powder into. That will then dilute. Each additional rack after the first rack needs to have 1 scoop before it's renovated. But as I say, it's good practice that as soon as the glass washer is commissioned and ready to go, every single rack of glassware is renovated. that point, the renovation chemical can be taken to one side. It won't need to be used again unless you introduce new glassware into the pub, and you then just same process again. Another good tip, which obviously forms part of the SOPs also, would be to ensure that whoever turns the machine on first thing in the morning checks they've got enough detergent rinse additive for the day. This is done by this panel here, which literally lifts up and drops down, and you can see the blue rinse additive and the clear detergent reservoirs. They need to be topped up on a daily basis to make sure that during operation the machine won't run out of detergent or rinse aid. It's quite important with this machine that this happens, because if it does run out of detergent or rinse aid, to stop damage to the machine or poor results, the machine will actually fault with a fault information code in the panel. It will say info 520 and the machine will stop. It won't wash again until more detergent or rinse aid is introduced to the machine. So it's important that people understand part of the housekeeping tips, first thing in the morning, top it up, that's going to serve you well for the day. This section would just give you some housekeeping hints and tips. Obviously it forms part of the SOPs, but it's just to give you an idea of best practice for this machine. You can see here the machine isn't quite up to temperature, but the light is flashing, so as we said before in the startup procedure, you've got to leave the machine to finish doing what it's doing. That light will then become a solid orange light once the machine is up to temperature and is ready to go. With this type of machine, it's important to understand that when the machine runs out of detergent or rinse additive, a fault code will appear in the window here. The fault code will be 502. When that fault code appears, that will tell you that you need to top up the detergent and rinse aid. The machine will no longer wash, it will shut down if that code appears. With regard to service backup and maintenance for these machines, it's a fully inclusive package that's included as part of the machine delivery. So mkII UK will look after the maintenance and repair of these machines. Once you've gone through the process, if you do have a fault, making sure that it isn't a housekeeping issue with regard to low chemical at info 520, or the door is open, or the water has been turned off to the machine, a genuine fault needs to be logged with mkII UK. That can be done by phoning our dedicated service hotline, which is 01753 215 130. Alternatively, an email can be placed at techserve@mkiuk.co.uk. For efficient placement of call, it's good practice to have your pub number handy along with the dedicated number for the machine. This is a unique ID number which each machine will have. That tells us exactly which machine we're looking at. You can give us that information along with any information with regard to a fault code or a general diagnosis of the issue. At that point, the call will be logged onto your property system. Finally, the most important tips for this machine are obviously the info 520 to make sure that the machine never runs out of detergent or rinse aid, because the machine will stop. Also, it's important to understand that once the renovation process has taken place, initially when the machine is installed and all the glassware at the pub is washed and renovated, any new glassware that's introduced along the line into the pub also needs to be renovated as well. There is a film that appears on new glassware as a release agent when the glass is made, and that will cause a problem if it isn't renovated before it's used. As part of the preventive maintenance contract that mkII UK look after these machines, there is a filter change that needs to take place every 6 months. Now that's sanctioned from our office. It's something that automatically happens as part of the preventive maintenance visit. So it's nothing that the pub needs to worry about at all. It's something that would be looked after by mkII UK, but that will be replaced every 6 months to ensure that the machine is giving trouble-free results. Operationally, there'll only be 2 issues with this machine to give you poor results. One will be that the filter needs to be changed, which is something that mkII UK will register on a 6-month rolling contract. That's something we look after ourselves. Alternatively, it could be a housekeeping issue where the standard operating procedures haven't been adhered to, and it's going to give you a poor result if we're not sticking to those procedures.